You were pretty for a black girl.
Your hair looks nice, but why is it poofy?
Weave a reel.
Wait, you're not mixed? There's no way you can only be black.
Why are black women so angry?
You're just so articulate for a black girl.
Oh, you're African American.
Really?
Racism is when somebody treats you unfairly or differently because of the color of your skin.
The fact that when a black or brown baby is born and the first day that they come onto this earth, their future is already forecasted for them.
Racism when it came to, being pulled over for no reason or, police searching your car for no reason. That just happened to me on New Year's Eve.
My earliest example was Halloween, or one of the earliest, Halloween, and I went trick-or-treating like kids do in my neighborhood, in my building, and I remembered I went to the door of a white family and I knocked on the door, excited in my little costume and with my little basket ready to get my goodies, and this little white boy opened the door and he looked at me and I swear he mouthed the N-word at me, and then before I realized what was happening, he socked me in my stomach.
So racism is a system of advantages which unfairly benefits white people because they created it. So it's like a hierarchy, a ranking system in which white people are at the top and then people of color are consecutively lower.
Racism can be at the individual level, person to person, but the more serious racism that we're dealing with today is at the level of institutions and structural racism, where policies are put in place that deny equal access, that deny equity, that deny fair treatment to people, mostly based on the color of their skin or their racial group membership.
The same way I define racism, I would define sexism is, somebody who's different from you, a man being intimidated by a woman's, potential.
And I think sexism is also a hierarchy based on gender with men at the top, so it's also patriarchy.
Along the way, when you're trying to climb that ladder, you can see where there's more emphasis given to male employees than women.
I think sexism is alive and well in America in general, in the world, but that it affects black women differently.
We'll let her get just far enough, but we're not going to let her get to that next level. Not here. We can't do that. And those words haven't been, directly said to me, no, but you can feel the energy and you can see how people move and see, what people allow you to do.
I think we can sometimes face the double jeopardy of racial experiences because of our membership as part of the African community. On top of that, we can then face gender bias. And that double jeopardy it's almost like a suffocating fog that you're in.
It's not white people's first thought that black women are smart and successful. So, when they see a smart, black, successful woman, they're like, why is that happening? How did that happen? Who raised her? Where are you from? Where'd you go to school? Like, all of these questions come to us, and it's just like, is that your real hair question? Like, if you see a dark black girl with long hair, you're just like, that's not how that's supposed to be.
Ultimately, what has that done for me or done to me? I can't just be. I can't just exist and be my natural self, because all of this stuff is layered on top of my world in every single sphere.
I noticed that people usually classify black women to be very loud and ratchet and just obnoxious.
They generalize it, saying that because we're black, that we're all like that. And it is a stereotype thing where you can go anywhere and find in any race that you're going to find the same type of people as far as being loud or not speaking correctly or not dressing appropriately or anything in any race.
The way we are portrayed in the media, the way we're portrayed in the narrative in general, in America and in the world, frustrates the hell out of me. It's like, really, seriously, once again, we're the Jezebel, we're the scandalous one, we're the ruthless one, we're the untrustworthy one, we're the uneducated one, we're the trifling one, we're the bad mother. There's no way on God's green earth that all black women are represented in those caricatures only.
I think those stereotypes, they make people feel like they need to police themselves or like look at what they're doing or watch what they're saying. So people feel like they have to alter themselves.
With a black person, it's like there are moments where it's just like you feel like that stereotype could be true for me. Like people will speak to you a certain type of way and you would think that, okay, oh, I met, this person is cool. Or, they don't think those stereotypes, like they're a natural person.
But I understand why it's there. It's a narrative that must be perpetuated because there's a need to keep us in a certain role, in a certain space, confined there, and only taken out at the will of others for a particular purpose and then placed back in our place. It's a way to control who we are, what we do, how we see each other, and how others see us. It started as a rationalization for treating us in inhumane ways for the purpose of greed. But then if someone keeps telling themselves and others something enough times, everybody starts believing it. And so America started believing its own rationalization so that has become its truth. And it's time to stop the lie.
So when I was in high school, we went on field trips, and one of my classmates, her mom, she would always yell at the students if they acted up on the bus or like on the trip or whatever. And then there's an Asian boy in my class, and he was like, "Wow, Tiara's mom is so black." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean she's so black?" And he's like, "I don't mean like skin color, but like she's just so black, like so angry." And I was like, How's that the same thing as being black, like being angry?
I feel like the most intimidating thing to white people about black people is we are unapologetically ourselves. Like, we do what we feel, we move how we want to move, we say what we want to say.
I think that the idea of the angry black woman is something that I feel the most upset about, I think, because normally you depict a dim-witted, irrational black woman hollering and yelling for comedic relief. And I think the reality is like, then when you are this black woman in any social situation, regardless of like the ethnicity or the gender of the people around you, the knee-jerk response is, oh, she's just, uppity. Oh, she's just mad. And it's just like so frustrating to constantly have your thoughts and feelings invalidated in that way. And like, I think it also makes, and I've had so many conversations with black girls, like want to be soft-spoken and want to be less aggressive. And people tell me that I'm aggressive all the time, but the reality is like, I have things to say and I'm gonna fucking say them. Like, that's it. And it's if a man, or especially, let's say, a white man, were to do the same things and the same gestures that I would do if I were impassioned, they would be go-getters and leaders and brave.
I would define beauty to be your mind is pretty, your soul's pretty, and just your heart's pretty.
There isn't any specific, way that you're supposed to look or way that you're supposed to speak or, way that you're supposed to dress or any of that. It's just you being you. That's beauty.
I think everything has beauty, but it's all subjective. And the fact that we're humans and we have a chance to have a mind gives us a unique opportunity to interpret beauty. And so with that said, I think black women are absolutely beautiful. I think melanin is gorgeous. These are my definitions of beauty.
I think skin tones define beauty, but I think all skin tones look good.
You're so lovely for being so dark-skinned.
When I was growing up, my older sister, we looked pretty much exactly the same, but she's lighter than me, and she was always treated better in my family, so I kind of internalized that when I was in, elementary to middle school.
So my sister, being the darker skinned one of us, got it worse. My grandma would say all types of things to her, you know, you're not important, you're not pretty, you're dark.
Which was something that growing up in my own household, I'd never heard until I started going to school, like this colorist gradient. And I think that it's like really sad and really poisonous that in a lot of cultures and societies, like this idea that if you're darker, you're inherently less beautiful.
I don't bring this up to shade my grandma, but I bring it up just to raise awareness of the fact that the issues that we face as Black women come from within our own community and also from outside. And I think that double penetration is extremely harmful to our mental, our spiritual, our emotional, and we're so strong that way, but it really sucks that it has to get hit that hard.
For me, racism is like remembering being 3 and driving down Venice Boulevard and wondering why like none of the billboard models looked like me, and how like now I can drive down Venice Boulevard and none of the billboards will ever look like me, and that's supposed to be okay.
Beauty in America is, it's a psychological disorder, as far as I'm concerned.
America's idea of beauty is always fleeting, it's always changing, but one thing that is consistent is that, you know, the lighter, the better.
Society defines beauty based off of white standards, so like the closer you are to looking white, the closer you are to being beautiful, and I think a lot of even people of color kind of internalize that and believe that too.
I mean, all you have to do is look at television. I mean, while I was growing up, all we saw were white women on television. I mean, I know everything about them. They know very little about me, and they're the standard.
Yeah, I feel like those images that we are fed from the moment that we hit, you know, 6 and 7 years old, I think those images are so detrimental to our own self-worth and, you know, self-ideas of beauty.
There's just one Disney princess that looks like me.
Barbie dolls. I think that that's a good constant for what American beauty, mainstream American beauty is. Usually when they define beauty, they show probably like a Mexican or white or just a light skin, if it is ever a Black person.
It's lacking the depth that should be part of any definition of beauty, that it is much more than just what your physical appearance looks like, but it's what is the character that's within you that allows the radiance of the face to come forward, what they in Ghana would call the yim yam. It's really your true beauty happens from the inside out, and in America, beauty is from the outside, and the inside doesn't really matter unless you're just really bodaciously out of control.
And I think the fact that America doesn't see normal as beautiful is a problem. It's a big problem facing our young girls. It's a big problem facing women today.
I never thought I was beautiful. I always thought my siblings were so beautiful until when my granddaughter Taylor was born, and I thought she was the prettiest little China doll that ever walked the face of the earth, this beautiful little baby. And I had my own children, but I still thought, God, look at this beautiful little baby looking up at me, and it's my daughter's baby. She was so beautiful. And somebody said, and she looks just like you. And then I thought, maybe I am pretty. Maybe I am beautiful.
It's hard to love yourself, and it's hard to have esteem for yourself when you can't see yourself in anything else. I remember really struggling with Disney princesses growing up. Like I can't like do that, because I think, well, first of all, like, what is the moral of the story, right? Marry rich, which is not a good thing to teach young girls. But just not having somebody that looked like me was really frustrating, because if Snow White is the fairest of them all, and you have dark skin, it's really hard to see how you too can be beautiful. And I think that like characters like Storm, stuff like that like empowered Black women were too few and far between for a healthy upbringing.
I've never been criticized for my body type, but I consciously try to not show my body, because stereotypically, I have like the black girl body, so it's like a bigger breast, it's wide hips, it's you have like a bigger butt and things like that, and that comes with a lot of I wouldn't say negative connotations, but definitely connotations. Like people think a certain way about you.
I have on many occasions, had people make reference to that. And so at different points in time, I have found myself dressing in a particular way to camouflage it, because I don't want attention brought to me in that regard.
The appropriation of like a black woman's body is really frustrating to me, because I think especially for black women, right, it took us to womanhood to learn to love ourselves in spite of the way we look. And then you have these people and they, like they do all of these crazy things. They get injections, they get tans, to look like us. And they're told that they're even more beautiful now. And it's like the thing we were born with will never look good in our bodies because of our skin, like my ass is my ass, but should Kylie Jenner wear the same jeans, her ass is hot, or like tons of little girls are like buying like lip plumpers, and like for years I had to like figure out and look in the mirror and be like, it's okay to have my lips.
There's this one guy in my class, and he has told me that he would never date a black girl, and I never understood why, because of the color of your skin, it shouldn't matter.
At my high school, there's a guy who said he was a black guy, or he said he was Creole, but he said he loves white women. And then one of my friends was like, oh, so you won't date a black woman? And he said, I'll date a black girl, but she has to be really bad. And then I was like, but he wasn't bad. So I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I feel like black women are like the guilty pleasure.
Experimental encounter, right? Like in the most innocent way possible, they'd want to touch my hair. I remember once when I was very little, this kid asked me if I tasted like chocolate.
In my interaction with like a lot of older white men, it's like they tell me all of the things that they wish they could have said to black women when they were younger. Like, and it's so funny because when like I have like my natural hair out, or it's like if I have braids, it's like older like white men, they're like, oh my God, you're just wow. Like they're like they love it. And but I feel like out in the open, that's not, no, like we don't deal with them.
And I feel like to this day we're continuing to be undervalued, hypersexualized, and only important when we're fitting a certain stereotype.
Yes, one of my close friends told me that me and my sisters are pretty for a black girl, and I never understood what she meant by that.
Well, I mean, yes, people have told me that I'm pretty for a black girl.
It's frustrating, and it's just like, why does it have to be that? What does that even mean? Like, so we're not supposed to be pretty? Or like, we're the way that we were born and the way that we grow up naturally and the way that we look, that's not supposed to be beautiful to you.
Sometimes I'm confused when people say that, oh, you're attractive, that they're saying I'm attractive because my physical features and my skin color are closer to the thing that's on the pedestal.
One time I was in a car with this boy, and he was like half black, or he was mixed, but when I asked him what he was mixed with, he barely said black. If he said black, he said like the first 3 letters and wouldn't say the last 2. Like he wasn't really into being black, I guess. But he told me, he was like, I usually don't find black girls attractive. I usually don't date black girls, but you're really pretty. Like you're really pretty. And I just got really offended by that because he wasn't even I don't know. I don't want to say anything rude about him, but it's just really discouraging to know that that's the sentiment about like your own people, is that you don't usually find them attractive. And I wonder why he doesn't find them attractive. I wonder if it's just how he grew up and what he grew up around. But for me personally, I took offense to it, and and it was a backhanded compliment, because while you're complimenting me as an individual, you are at the same time tearing down my people.
Well, somebody had brought a weapon to school, and so the police came to our classroom and checked our stuff. And then I say, hey, that's my stuff. And then my mom said to me that you should be quiet when the police come, because if you keep talking, you can end up in jail.
Everyone, rightly so, has been focused on all of the police brutality and the injustices meted out by the police and the justice system, but they've been focused on the men. And there are all of these cases of black women who have been killed by the police. You know, when we talk about the prison industrial complex, everybody's talking about over-incarceration of black people, and they've been focused on black men. And by, 2020, 1 out of 3 black men will be in prison. What people haven't paid attention to is the number of black women that have been incarcerated in this prison industrial complex. The number of black women who have been removed from their families, who've been taken from their children, who have been damaged by this system, whose dreams have not just been deferred, they have been totally decimated. And then by extension, if you take away the women, you're taking away the mothers. And so they're undermining our families. And people have not appreciated that. If you're gonna really focus on how we strengthen the black community, you've gotta start with the women.
Black Lives Matter was started by 3 queer black women. The protest for Rekia Boyd was something early on that, like, before Black Lives Matter kind of blew up, that didn't get any attention. And I think it's interesting that it was when they started reporting on I don't want to say boys, but more high-profile cases, they got a lot more traction. And I think in general,
Black women face a different kind of brutality when dealing with the police. So black men usually face being killed or beaten up, and black women also face being killed and beaten up, but also they face being raped or sexually assaulted by police officers. There's a case, Daniel Holtzclaw, he was the officer who just raped over 8 black women. So that's something that people don't usually talk about, and that's something that black men don't usually face.
When it comes to dealing with police who are usually white males who have this complex that, I have this position of power and I can do whatever I want to do, it's difficult because we can't do anything about it.
I don't want people to think that things like Say Her Name is in any way in opposition to, wanting justice for Tamir Rice, right? It's the same thing. It's like a life lost, and I think that it's very scary to see that there is a precedence in social location, right? The death of a man, albeit a black man, is somehow more important to us than an attack on a black woman's body.
So I don't feel safer now than I did years ago. In fact, I feel quite a bit less safe.
Not directly, but indirectly, I feel like I was brought up to protect black men just because my brother, he's the only guy in the house. So my parents have taught him to a lot of life lessons about being a black man. So I have listened to those, so I understand how it is. So in my mind, I guess I feel like I should protect them without realizing it.
I feel like black women aren't directly brought up to protect black men, but black people are kind of, and your parents may not say it to you, but if you walk into a classroom and it's you and another black person, you and that other black person are gonna you're gonna connect, subconsciously. It's we kind of look to each other okay, I see you, we're doing this together, all right.
I think in my house I was taught to protect myself because I was raised by mostly my mom. But then outside of that, when I went to I was in a program called College Bound, which is a college prep program for black students. And they always separated the black girls from the black boys, and were like, black girls, we need to protect our black men because like no one's protecting them, so we have to be their foundation. And I was like, if we're on the bottom, then we're on the bottom. No one's our foundation, so someone's on top of us, and like no one's protecting us, but we have to protect everyone else.
No, I don't feel like black men protect black women the way that they should, because and I understand why, because they're scared. Like they can't even protect themselves. You know, it's not black men's fault or anything. I'm scared for them, you know, because we depend on them, or you know, subconsciously we do. Even if we don't say it, like every black woman, if something happened, like we're gonna look, you know, like, okay, well, what you gonna, like, can you help us out? What's the plan? That's what we do as women, you know, whether you're black or white, period. But as far as, you know, black women's interaction with black men, they can't really protect us and, you know, kind of be at that level that we want them to be at, because they're trying to understand how they can navigate.
What I want to say to black men is to remember that as much as you think of yourself as a king, we think of ourselves as queens.
So what I would like to say to black men is, we love you. We want you to be just as great as you want yourself to be, but we want to feel like you love us too. Like you want to see, just like you want to see your fellow, you know, black brothers and stuff make it and be successful. We want to feel that you want that for us too.
If you don't love black women, or you don't want to support them, then you're not ever going to be free, and you can be like the leader of every racial justice movement, or writing all these articles, doing blah blah blah, but if you don't love black women, because if there's no black women, there's no black men, then you'll never be free. And we're all a community, so we have to look out for everyone.
How could you want anything other than what a black woman can bring to the table?
That we are intelligent, that we're nurturing, and that we're very supportive, and that we're the mother of their children.
The most important lessons that my mother told me about growing up as a black girl,
just from their example, they taught us that we were just as good as anybody else, but they did not go around saying, because you're black, you know, you're better, I mean, people are going to look at you different, or they're not going to look at you as well, or anything. They never went into those kind of things.
They definitely instilled in me to be resilient and to be focused.
So she always would just tell me, like, you know, just listen.
Is to think fast and have thick skin.
As black folk, our culture has taught us that it's never the parents that raise the child. It's the community. So the grandparents are involved, the aunts and uncles are involved, the older cousins are involved, the broader community is involved. And so they've taught me multiple lessons, including, yeah, there's racism out there, but you gotta work hard and you gotta be better than. And that one is a double-edged sword, because you've got to be better than means I'm going to work twice as hard, which means I'm going to be twice as tired. You know, so that's a drain. I can't just be, I got to be more than. I got to be more better.
I fear that my daughter will like just embrace everything that the outside world says about black women, and just let that make her alter herself or not be her true self.
James Baldwin once said, "The American ideal of progress is measured by how fast I become white." I want you to realize that that is not the standard. That is not the goal.
To remember that she possesses immeasurable power, and that her power is stronger than any word, any ideal, any stereotype, or any misconception someone could ever have about her just because she's a woman, or just because her skin tone is a certain color.
And looking at this beautiful baby, this beautiful black girl, I think the only thing she really needs to know, and she'd be okay, is that love, real love, is turning radical politics into simple gestures. And she'll be good. Hopefully.
Just to be who you are, to believe in yourself, and not worry about the skin tone, can bring you very, very far.
what I'd want to say to society about Black women is to more than tolerate us, you guys need to accept us, because we're not going anywhere and we're just going to get louder.
And we expect the same opportunities that for us as everybody else gets.
We praise like so many artists and so many like films or whatever that are violent towards Black women, specifically Black women, no other race of women. And I want to say to society to let us like live in peace and let us stop being policed and erased all the time.
I'm still here.